Have you ever noticed how some people seem to move through life with ease? They set a goal and somehow everything starts falling into place, almost as if the universe is working in their favor. Success just happens. But have you ever stopped to wonder, why them? What's the hidden secret behind the so-called easy life? Here's the truth. It's not luck, and it's not magic. These people have mastered one invisible skill we'll talk about today: the ability to focus. Focus isn't just a mental habit, it's a creative force. Every time you place your attention on something, you're not just watching it, you're fueling it. You're feeding it with energy. And that energy doesn't disappear. It grows, it multiplies, it reshapes how you think, how you feel, and ultimately, what you expect from the world. Most people have no idea this is happening. They think they're just observing life, just noticing what's around them. But the truth is, they're not just noticing, they're creating. Every single focus point becomes a brick in the world they live in. You lock your attention on chaos, and suddenly everything feels chaotic. You dwell on being misunderstood, and before long, every conversation, every glance, every silence becomes evidence that you are. But here's the catch. The power of focus doesn't only work against you, it can build as much as it can break. When you begin turning your attention toward clarity, growth, calm, and alignment, something shifts. Your nervous system begins to adapt. Your thoughts start to fall in line with that frequency, and the external world, little by little, starts echoing it back to you. So let me ask you something, not as a concept, but as a real question right here and now. What have you been focusing on lately? What emotional atmosphere are you living in? Not just for today, but again and again, over and over until it became your home. Because whether you're conscious of it or not, your focus is training your mind, and that training shapes your reality. Most people walk through life thinking their focus is a reaction. Something happens and they pay attention. Something goes wrong and they worry. Something feels unfair and they stew on it. But that's the trap, because the moment your focus becomes purely reactive, you've handed over your power. You've allowed the outside world to steer your inner world. You've let noise, distraction, and other people dictate how you feel, what you think, and who you end up becoming. The truth most people never get taught is this: focus isn't a reaction, it's a responsibility. If you don't actively choose what to give your attention to, something else will. The world will choose for you. The news will choose for you. Algorithms will choose for you. Your pain, your ego, your wounds, they'll happily jump in, uninvited, and drag your attention back to the very places you're trying to escape. And you won't even realize it's happening because it will feel so familiar. And think about this. Have you ever noticed how natural it feels to focus on what's missing? On what they said, on what you regret, on how it should have been? That's not your fault. That's survival wiring. Your brain is designed to scan for danger, but if you're not deliberate, that wiring becomes a prison. It keeps you locked in a loop of problems, always noticing what's wrong, rarely acknowledging what's right. And this is where awareness becomes your superpower. Because when you begin to notice what you're repeatedly giving your attention to, you start to see the pattern. And the pattern is everything. Because here's the science of it. The more you think a certain thought, the more your brain strengthens that pathway. It becomes your default filter. Soon, you're not looking at life as it is, you're looking at life through a lens you unconsciously polished with repetition. And this is how people stay stuck for years. Not because they lack ability, not because they lack options, but because they've been hypnotized by their own focus. And the dangerous part, they don't even recognize it. Every belief you hold started with focus. Not with truth, not with evidence, just focus. You repeated a thought, an insecurity, a label, a story, until your mind decided this is real. And once it accepted it, you stopped questioning it. That's the danger. We rarely question the thoughts that feel familiar. We just live inside them like tenants who forgot they could move out. You weren't born believing you weren't enough. You weren't born thinking you'd never make it, or that every good thing would collapse. Somewhere along the way, you focused too long on one wound, one rejection, one betrayal, one failure, and your nervous system thought it was protecting you by building a wall. But what it really built was a prison. And here's what I need you to see. You're not broken. You're just focused in the wrong direction. You're not weak. You've just been feeding the wrong guide. Look at it this way. Someone who constantly searches for disrespect will find it everywhere. Someone who focuses on betrayal will assume motives in every silence. Meanwhile, another person in the exact same situation might feel grounded, calm, untouched. Not because life gave them a better hand, but because their focus isn't trying to defend an old wound. It's building toward the future instead of obsessing over the past. And that difference is everything. When you stop feeding your energy into what drains you, life begins to feel different. The same rooms feel lighter. The same people respond differently. Why? Because energy doesn't lie. You stop showing up from desperation, from please notice me, from please don't hurt me again. You start showing up from clarity, from alignment, from grounded peace. And here's the secret hardly anyone tells you. Peace is magnetic. People can feel when you're no longer being controlled by your environment, when your focus isn't scattered by every comment, every headline, every distraction. And when that becomes your baseline, life transforms. It stops being a list of problems you're running behind on and starts becoming a place you're actively creating from. You've probably heard the saying, energy flows where attention goes. But let's take it further. Attention doesn't just shape your energy, it filters your entire world. Your brain doesn't show you reality, it shows you what you've convinced it to believe is important. Right now, in this very second, there are thousands of signals around you. Colors, sounds, opportunities, faces, ideas. But you don't experience all of them. Your mind filters. Like a spotlight in a dark theater, it only illuminates what matches your current focus. So, if fear, rejection, or failure dominate your attention, guess what gets highlighted? More of the same. More proof you're not enough. More reasons to stay afraid. Not because it's true, but because your brain is addicted to proving itself right. And here's the tragedy. Most people don't realize their life isn't being shaped by truth. It's being shaped by a dirty lens they never thought to clean. But the moment you begin redirecting your focus, you start creating a new filter, a new baseline. And that doesn't just shift how you feel. It shifts what you notice, what you attract, what you create. Think about it. If you've been focusing on the ways people abandoned you, hurt you, misunderstood you, you'll keep finding it. Even in people who love you, you'll read between the lines. You'll assume intentions that aren't there. You'll block the very connections meant to heal you. Why? Because your focus is hijacked. But the moment you say, I'm done scanning for proof that I'm broken, you begin training your mind differently. You start teaching your nervous system to expect safety instead of pain. And that's when everything changes. Now, let's go deeper. Focus isn't just about what you look at. It's also about what you're willing to let go of. Sometimes your life feels heavy not because of what you're carrying in your hands, but because of what you're carrying in your head. Old conversations, imaginary arguments, futures you've already played out 10 different ways. It's mental clutter, emotional clutter, and it eats up the exact energy you need to be present. Your life doesn't need more effort. It needs cleaner focus. And cleaner focus often comes from creating space, from saying, I don't need to keep rehearsing that, from letting tabs close in your mind. Because without space, your focus has nowhere to land. And when your focus has nowhere to land, your life can't grow. It can only repeat. Here's something most people realize too late. Your life isn't stuck. Your focus is. You don't always need to change your job, move cities, or disappear. Sometimes the shift doesn't come from running away. It comes from seeing clearly. And you can't see clearly when your focus is clouded by assumptions, fears, comparisons, and noise. Here's the deeper truth. What you continually focus on becomes your identity. Focus long enough on how unfair life has been, and you become the person who's always wronged. Focus long enough on shame, and you become the person who's always broken. Focus long enough on approval, and you lose sight of who you are without applause. But none of these identities are permanent. You can rewire them, not through miracles, but through consistency. By redirecting your focus over and over, even in small ways, you begin to create space. Not fake positivity, but real space. And in that space, something new has room to grow. Because at the end of the day, your focus is the blueprint of your reality. It shapes your nervous system, your relationships, your sense of self, your ability to create. And once you truly grasp that, you'll realize you don't need to control everything around you. You only need to decide, with courage, where your attention lives. And maybe today is the moment you draw that line, quietly, calmly, powerfully, where you say, I'm done fueling the life I don't want. I'm redirecting my focus toward the one I do. Because once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. Your attention is your life. Guard it, guide it, and give it to what deserves to grow.